live on. And here we are again on a Thursday. And thanks very much to Dave Bolton for joining me today as my guest.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for inviting me on.
You're very welcome. We've just been talking about what tier we're in. Obviously that's breaking news at the moment across the UK, so I'm going to bring it up because I'm annoyed already because Coventry are in tier 3, and you being in Merseyside have gone down into tier 2, haven't you? So
yeah, definitely. So golf course is open, gym's back open.
Yeah, so I'm hoping in 2 weeks' time we go back down to tier 2, but I'm not really that hopeful for it, really, because I can't see it happening. But anyway, let's move away from that activity.
A bit more positive.
I just have to get it out of there because I'm like really raging. I can't go back to pole classes yet. But anyway, so you have got some kind of crazy story, basically. Like I don't know. It was sometime last year after I joined LinkedIn. I must have come across you. I don't know how, on my LinkedIn feed, and I read your story and was just like, "What the hell? Like, how has one person gone through this stuff and come out the other side?" So I do really want you to tell us like a quick kind of overview of that story for obviously other people that don't know it.
Yeah, the hard bit is doing it quickly.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but
Yeah. So we'll start back. It's 2004. I'm in the police, Merseyside Police. I'm 23. I've just moved into my first property, so I've just stepped my foot onto the property ladder with my girlfriend Sam, who's now my wife. So we've been together since we were 16, and we're still together now. Now, childhood sweetheart. So we just got this new flat, and we just found out that she was pregnant with our first. Obviously, it wasn't planned, but my lad Josh, we say he's a happy accident when he's being good. So I'm quite an outdoorsy person, snowboard, skydiving, scuba, you name it, I've done it, and a bit of an adrenaline junkie, should we say. So I also had a motorbike, so I had a GSXR 600 sports bike. It was a Wednesday, the 6th of September, and it was my day off. So I phone up or a text on the bricks that you had back then, no smartphones. To me partner who I work with said, "Do you want to go out for a ride into Wales?" Now he had a bike and he said, "You know what? Yeah," because it was Wednesday, the road conditions were good, but also there was hardly any traffic on the road. So we set off into Wales, stopped off at the Ponderosa, which is a very famous biker bar.
Even I've heard of that.
There you go. Sometimes I have to explain it, but and we set off towards Bala. As we've gone into the Horseshoe Pass, Russ has been about 100 feet, 150 feet in front of us, big gap. You know, we weren't stupid, we weren't speeding or anything. We've come into the Horseshoe Pass, which is onto it, and it's a tight left-hand corner. So you come off the power, if you know anything about bikes, you lean into it, and then you come on the power to hug the road. One thing you should never do is brake on a corner. Unfortunately for me, as I've come on that power, there's diesel and gravel all over the road. And as I've come on at that split second, the back end's twitched out, like flipped out, which has then caused me, without me realizing my autonomous reaction is to jab that brake. It's then sat the bike upright and it follows its path. So I've been going around the corner, it's gone. So I've gone across onto the wrong side of the road. Usually that wouldn't have been a problem, but unfortunately for me, 6 to 8 feet away was a 23-ton articulated lorry. Yeah.
I shouldn't swear on these lies, but
exactly what went in my head. But when people say time stands still at times like this, trust me, it does. I had a full-blown conversation with myself that felt as though it had lasted for 10 minutes. That happened in milliseconds. The upshot from that conversation was, I have to jump from this bike now. So I shifted all my weight onto the left hand of my peg of the bike and leapt from the bike. I landed on my back and started to slide across onto the left-hand side of the road, which is the right, where I should be. Unfortunately or fortunately, it depends how you view the situation. For me, I say fortunately. I ended up going under the back wheel of the cab and the front 2 wheels of the Arctic trailer. The reason why I say fortunately is if I'd been a split second later, it would have been over my chest and I'd be dead. I knew it was bad. In my head, I just went, "Oh, S-H-I-T, should we say?" I know you've swore already, so it's fine. But the weird thing is I had no pain whatsoever. I remember the whole incident as clear as day. The feeling of the floor, the impact, the smell of the burning petrol and the rubber, can feel it all, but I had no pain. Your body's an amazing thing. It kicks out endorphins and
The
It was either
brain's insane. The brain's incredible. It's just
no pain at all, absolutely none. Or I was in shock. I don't know which that was, but I knew it was bad because when it was going over me, the actual lorry, my left leg had snapped up over and was now lying at a right angle the wrong way.
Oh my God.
There's blood starting to come out. I believe in fate. I'm a big believer in fate. And the vehicle behind me, the car behind me, was an off-duty paramedic. Now she must have saved my life because I've completely severed my artery in my leg. In fact, it was that bad that it was only being held on by a few strands of muscle fibers or veins, and it was just there. So I was actually bleeding out. I was classed as likely to prove. So that means I'm likely to prove fatal. So I'm either going to die at sea or die en route. I'd also completely crushed my right legs as well. So both were in a mess. I don't know where it came from, but I just remember thinking, don't panic. If I panic now, my heart rate's going to raise. I'm going to bleed out quicker. So even at that critical moment when I think if I was in pain, I probably wouldn't have had that same response. But that conversation with myself to jump from the bike saved my life. And that thought, don't panic, saved my life. Russ comes back on his bike, is obviously can't believe what's gone on. And the ambulance turns up. I then get told I have to be taken by air ambulance. I've still got my sense of humour at this time as well, because the rear positioning my legs back into place put me on a board, getting ready for me taken in the air ambulance. And he said, I need to cut your boot off. And I said, why? He said, because we need to get your legs sorted. I said, they cost me £400 then. And he went, well, they're worth 200 then now, aren't they? I said, oh, are you joking? So the ambulance landed, it felt like an eternity, and I was loaded into the back of the air ambulance where I'm met by a on-board doctor. And he said, I'm just going to give you something for the pain. And I said, I don't have any. He said, I think you're in shock. And he says, I'm just going to give you this shot of morphine. And I felt a scratch, and then fog came over. I ended up in a coma for 8 days. I was airlifted to Glenclwyd Hospital in Wales, where I had to have a 12-hour life-saving operation. I was later told that I was 30 seconds away from dying from bleeding out.
Wow.
So I always tend to think, imagine that helicopter had been on a different call. Imagine if they were refueling. I wouldn't be here today. So everything just aligned, and I was 30 seconds. Apparently, whilst I was in surgery, they were putting blood in, and it was just spraying out because literally my leg was hanging on by a few strands of muscle fibers and veins. They didn't think they were going to save it. The only reason why they left my leg to see if I got a chance because I was so physically fit. Just before, sport's been my whole life. It has. Just before the accident, I'd been selected to join the Great Britain team to fight for the world in the World Championships in Germany, kickboxing. Obviously, that never happened. So, but because I've been training so much and got myself in that peak fit, that was one of the only reasons why I attempted to save my leg. The damage was quite bad. I kind of lost 3/4 of my calf. On my left leg. I still have no ligaments, tendons there whatsoever. If you see a video, there's a video on YouTube I've got called Bolt Mode, and it just goes over my story. My leg has been completely degloved, so all the skin's been taken off from above my knee to below my calf. Should I stand up and try and sew it on screen?
Oh my God.
To hammer it home. See, this is where you know I haven't got shorts on now. So that's my leg now, if you can see.
Oh God, yeah.
It goes all the way up. Like that, there's only 1/4 of a calf there. Yeah, I also completely shattered my right leg, and I broke my kneecap, your patella, which apparently is really hard, into 6 places. So in surgery, they had to obviously reconnect or repair the femoral artery, but I had to have 6 external pins drilled into my leg, so probably the femur and the lower part of my leg, because my leg isn't held together with anything, it's just flopping around. So I had to fuse it straight until I could have skin grafting at Wiston Hospital. So they had 6 pins in there, had an X wire in my right knee. I'd lost 3/4 of my calf, and I was in a pretty bad way. They brought me out the coma on day 7 because it was an induced coma because my body wouldn't have been able to take the pain and what had
Yeah.
And then, but I couldn't take. Apparently, I was in too much pain. Don't remember anything. Also, so on day 8, they brought me round, and it's not like in the movies where people sit up and they go away. The first thing I remember is being pinned down to the bed, because when you come round, I've been on a ventilator, life support machine, so I've been intubated. the first thing you do is you've got an obstruction in your mouth. You want to remove
like,
it.
get it out. Yeah.
Exactly. So if I grab that and rip it out, I'm going to rip my lungs out and die. So slowly you pin down, you slowly bring it out. And then they say, breathe. And I was there going, that's the only thing I remember is like, because we breathe autonomously, it's natural. But this machine had been breathing for 7-8 days for me. So it felt like an eternity. And eventually I took this big breath, and I don't really remember much else about that. My mum says that, I mean, wife, she's my girlfriend then, but wife, all the way through now, it's just wife. I was being sick. I then had to be transferred to Wiston Hospital for skin grafting. Whilst I was waiting to be transferred, unfortunately, I contracted morphine psychosis, which is horrific. So morphine psychosis is extreme paranoia, hallucinations, as real as we are talking.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of morphine. I had it because I had 2 C-sections. I had it after I had my daughter, and I said, "You've got to stop giving me this," because it was horrible. It made me feel awful.
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to be able to overdose. It's to give you a PCA, so it's a pump that you can self-administer morphine, and it locks out after 3 shots.
Yeah.
So I remember being in pain, and I hit it 3 times, and then I came round, and I thought I was in surgery, so I panicked. Hit it 3 times. This happened all day, to the point where I completely overdosed it. So I got to Wiston Hospital in Liverpool, an amazing hospital, for repair, to get the skin grafting done. The first day, there was 2 nurses stood at the end of me at my bed while they were checking me in, and I physically saw them say, "Do you know what? He shouldn't be in here. He's doing this himself on a motorbike. I hate people like him. How do we get rid of him? Taking up a bed, wasting resources." And the other one went, "Well, we've poisoned people before. Let's poison his food." So then
so you were just, but that was obviously all in your head.
Yeah, they were probably just talking about the ward round or booking me in. So I withdrew and refused to engage with anyone, which made things worse. I didn't know I was in hospital. I didn't know I'd been in a bike accident. I had no clue what was going on. So I didn't even know I had lower leg injuries. I was just stuck in this world of like alternative reality. I didn't know what was real. I didn't know, I saw my mum get dragged in by her hair and was executed in front of me by terrorists.
Oh my gosh.
I start screaming. I've just been shot. The blood sprays up all over me. I shout, "Mom!" And then the nurses come in, and suddenly there's nothing there. So it was like real horrific. The final straw came was when my mum and my wife came to visit me, and I'm rocking in a bed. And we're talking, and I said, "You need to stop visiting me every day. It must be costing you a fortune." And they were like, "What do you mean? We live on the Wirral. It's just a tunnel ride. It takes 20 minutes, half an hour." I said, "There isn't a tunnel to Canada." I thought I'd been sectioned, and I was in a mental institute on a psych ward in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. So obviously great concerns were raised for my mental health. And the on-call doctor came, and I had a moment of clarity, and I just said to him, "Take me off everything." He said, "You'll be in too much pain." I said, "I don't know where I am. I'm in a psych ward." I said, "I'd rather be in pain and understand what's going on."
I need to get some clarity on what's actually happening.
So obviously he had to. And then 2 days later, I just remember waking up in the morning, and I looked around, and that fog had lifted. My brain still wasn't 100%. It was still a bit, and I just remember looking down at my sheets. Now, I don't know why I'm in hospital. I don't even remember at this point. I've been in a bike accident. And I got a sheet over me with 6 pins. So it's like a tent.
Oh, yeah.
But because my leg's bleeding non-stop, because I think I had about 36 blood transfusions in the end.
36?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, blimey.
So it's all bandaged up, but it seeps through. So I have blood-stained sheets. I look over to my right leg. It's in a full cast. And obviously, as I said before, I was going to the World Championships. My fighting weight was about 76 kilograms. So you're looking at 12.5 stone. I got weighed at 7 stone. So I'd lost that much weight. So I come around, it was like, what the hell? And then obviously stuff starts to start dripping back in then. Obviously I'm in tears. What's going on? They explain to me, my wife's there, and we start to get going. So the first thing I had, so we're about 6 weeks post-accident now. 5 weeks post-accident, I've got to learn how to walk again. But first I had to I won't go into too detail because this will go on for ages, but I had to go grafting. I had to go down for surgery 7 times to get skin grafting. So they take a layer of skin off a donor site. So mine was in the upper part of my left thigh. They put it in a mangle. It stretches it out. They lay it on your affected area with no skin, and they staple it with staple guns, like a staple gun. Luckily, mine all took. Usually, they only take 60% of the time, so at least one thing was going for me at that time. Then I had to learn how to walk again. Now, I was told you will never be able to walk again properly, ever again. So that was the first barrier I had to get through. And they said, and if by chance you do, you'll never have full movement in that leg. You'll always have to use a walking aid, a walking stick, or a Zimmer frame, whatever the medical term was.
Yeah.
So obviously me being very active, 23, sport's been my whole life, you know, county football, county rugby. I used to run in the England school league when I was young. You know, this just wasn't an option. Obviously I had my down period, but also I had a kid on the way. So I wanted to be able to be that dad who can be active, whether it's a girl, whether it's a boy, it didn't matter. I wanted to be running.
Exactly. You want to be running around the park with them, don't you?
Yeah, I want to be running around the park. And stupidly in my head, I didn't want them to be that, because I'd be a young dad. I didn't want to be turning up at the schools there, me on crutches, hobbling along. It's just in a very stupid way, really, in my head. I wanted to be that active dad. So I then started how to learn how to walk. And the first bit was picking my leg up off the bed. Now I've been in bed now after surgery. We're sort of 2 months now. So I couldn't even do that. That neural pathway for my brain, so my leg just didn't work anymore because it hadn't worked for 2 months. And eventually, me being me, I kept trying. And about midnight, I've managed to pick that leg up straight and drop it down. Still got the pins in. And I just screamed, "Get in!" as loud as I could. Woke the ward up. Nurses come running in. And I was like, "I'm sorry, I've just picked my leg up." I don't think they understood the seriously. They were like, "Okay," and walked out.
Yeah, all right. Put down.
I don't know what that means to me. So then I had to start, then the physios were called and I had to start learning how to walk. The problem was the first time they sat me up, I woke up embarrassed. I thought I'd fallen asleep on a shoulder. It wasn't. It's because my blood pressure was that poor. Every time I was sat up straight, I passed out.
Oh, God.
It took me a week just to be able to sit
out
up
of bed.
out. Obviously, because my blood transfusions, obviously, I'd been laying down straight for 2 months, just moving up. So that gravity hadn't got my blood working. So long story short, I end up standing up with the pins in. Obviously, this has been removed now, the cast, and I'm walking up and down the ward because I get to know the lad. I've been there for like 2-3 months. John, I'm doing it. This walking down. So then I had to do stairs to then be discharged to Arrow Park Hospital, which is the local hospital near us, where I thought pins would be removed. I'd have surgery to reattach my ACL, my medials, get that leg moving, and I'd crack on with life. Couldn't have been further from the truth. I eventually did the stairs, got discharged to Arrow Park Hospital, got the pins removed on the wall, which is a story in itself, but won't go into it because there's so much to my story. But what had happened is because my leg had been straight now, this is sort of 3.5 months, scar tissue had grown into that joint. Now, scar tissue is like stretching leather. So I went down for a manipulation whilst under anaesthetic. So you go down to surgery, they put nerve relaxants, muscle relaxants into your leg, and they basically just crank as much pressure on to break through that scar tissue. I remember coming round and I knew it hadn't worked. And Dr. Starmer came up to me and said, if we'd have put an ounce more pressure on your leg, we'd have snapped the femur in half. That's it. So I had 30 degrees flexion, 25 to 30 degree flexion in my knee. I was sent away to do physio for 4 months where we only got to 35, and that was it. I was given up on. I paid to go and see a private orthopedic specialist whose exact words were, "You need to forget about running and jogging ever again. It's over. There's no way around it." I said, the only way for you to be able to do that and walk on one leg and potentially be able to run is for us to amputate your left leg below the knee to give you the best chance of prosthetic. And I was like, so I came out with me. Obviously, I can't drive. Came out with my wife, just burst into tears. I was just like, you know, my whole life has been sport. I've got this kid. And that kind of lit a fuse under me, really. So I spent I was back in work after 8 months as well, back in the police, only on light duties, just doing that to keep my mind active. But I was doing rehab myself and proper brutal rehab, should we say. So I'd have a chair like we're sat on now there, and I'd have my bum against it, lying on the floor. My leg would be up at an angle, see there. And what we do is I'd put weight on it, like a strap. I'd have ankle weights, but I'd have like a specialist thing that I'd made, and I'd just slowly put weight, and I'd sit there for 2 hours watching TV. Now, it wasn't a relaxing, it was agony. I had tears coming down, the pain. We'd take it off slowly. I then couldn't stand up because the amount of pain my leg was in, I couldn't put weight through. I'd have belts indoors, slamming them, but I had to be careful. I couldn't just go to the gym and drop a leg press on it because I had to remember an ounce of pressure in that manipulation whilst around would have snapped my femur. The upshot from that was 18 months later, I'm back in work full time, and I've got 95-degree movements in my leg.
Wow. So that's just from your drive, though, isn't it? Because
for me, yeah.
The medical people were basically like, no, this
They're
is not happening. Give it up.
But I'm just not person is, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do the best ability. And if you tell me I can't do something, I'll prove I can.
I know, I can hear that from you. Like, as soon as someone says no to you, you're like, yeah, I'm not accepting it.
It was great. So I was back in work, loving life, doing really well, being headhunted in the police, working in covert units. It was just brilliant. Started to get back to playing sport. So I started off playing five-a-side with the lads on my block and my section because I know they wouldn't go hard in my leg. But what I found was my leg's probably stronger than it ever has been. Yeah, it hasn't got an ACL, it hasn't got ligaments or tendons. But what it does have is this block of scar tissue, so it's solid. So the only time you can notice if there's something wrong is if I sprint, because I still don't have that full mechanics in my leg. But you know what? The fact I can run and attempt to sprint, it'll do me. I can ride bikes, snowboard,
absolutely.
I love doing climbing. So started playing football, rugby, but what I wanted to get back into, and I knew I wouldn't probably be able to ever fight again, was combat sports. So I went back to my gym, Lee, and I said, is there any way I can just be involved still? He said, why don't you coach the kids? Because I love youth development. So I said, yeah, great. So I started doing that, and a couple of the lads had fights coming up, and he was like, Dave, do you mind jumping in and work, because my hands were really good, and work on their hands? So I did, and I started throwing the odd kick. And then I was like, oh, actually, by changing the way I thought and fought, I was still quite good. So I then had a sparring, 10-round sparring, and I dominated this lad for 5 rounds. But then obviously I'd not been training for a fight. So my cardio went, and then he was on to me. And he went, I think you should fight again. He said, with a proper training camp behind you, I think you could get back to it. So I had to face that fear, and that's that fear of rejection, that fear of being a failure, but also a fear of losing in front of your friends and family. And also, I'd only ever lost once in a ring. So I didn't want this to be my last fight. If I went in and got knocked out, not that I ever had been. But if we don't take risks in life, then the biggest risk is not taking one. So I faced that fear, fought my first fight and won. I then won about 6 or 7 fights locally. I then started traveling to Birmingham. I went up to Leeds and fought one of the Leeds top guy up there. On the way in the walk-in, for my walk-in, I was getting death threats on the way in saying, if you win, we're going to shoot you in the car park.
Oh, nice.
So obviously knocked him out and celebrated to the crowd, as you do. And I won my first title back on it. So this is 2008 now. So it's 4 years post-accident. And I won the Welsh Open Series title. I then won the English title, and then the British and English combined. And then I got a phone call, and it was a phone call from the Great Britain team saying, we've been at a few of your fights. We've got the World Championships in 2009 in Italy, Pisa, Italy. We want you to come for selection. So I was like, great. For me, this was the universe being put right. In 2004, this has been robbed from me. Here we are.
So you got back to kind of where you were, basically. With mashed up legs, just
exactly. So against all odds, so I started training and I sacrificed a lot. I sacrificed my body. I did before a fight. I'm not going into a fight just to make up the numbers, to get knocked out. I'm going to do it. So I sacrificed my social life, my family life. So I spent certainly 6 months, certainly another 3 months to run up to the world. No one saw me. I'd be up at 5 a.m. I'd go train straight to work. I had a great boss. So I'd disappear on lunch to an MMA gym or whatever I needed to work on. I'd have my tea in work, go to my kickboxing gym, work on what I need to, wait, and then I get back in. And this happened for 3 months. I was also up and down from Nottingham every Sunday for trials. So you'd be like 8 hours solid training, 8 hours solid training. The upshot was I made the team. So on November the 3rd, 4th, 2009, I flew out with the Great Britain squad, and I was part of that open ceremony. Thousands of people's there. Just very lucky to even have made it. I had 10 fights in 4 days, where I made the final on the Sunday. Going into the final on the Sunday, I had a fractured right wrist, and I'd broken 3 of my toes and 1 of the bones in my foot. My nose was also a nice shade of red, and I had bruising all over me. But adrenaline gets you through these things. When you win a fight, you don't feel anything. And like 3-4 days later, you're like, whoa, when did I get hit there? If you lose, and I've only ever lost 1 in a ring, instantly you feel all the pain. So I went into that final thinking, here we go. Now, I thought I had to knock this guy out because he was an Italian in Italy with Italian judges. And the fight before, I'd watched him, as you do, because you always watch who you're potentially going to fight. Him fight the French lad, who was a big guy. Now, the French lad had dominated the fight, but he got the decision. So I thought, I'm going to have to knock him out. But what the good thing is because the judging had been like that all the way through, we had all the teams supporting the British, which is very rare. That never happens. Do you know what I mean? So I go in there, and it's 3 rounds, obviously, because it can't be any more. If you're having 10, 11 fights in 4 days, it's not good on the brain. It's not good. It's like amateur boxing. They're the same in the Olympics. Obviously, kickboxing is an Olympic sport because there's too many federations, unfortunately. Upshot, that dominated the fight, and just in the middle of the ring, just waiting for my hand to be raised, I just thought, here we go. And my hand got raised, and emotion just came out. Whether it was, I just thought no one had been through what I'd been through, to come back and to fight, to become world champion, to be the best, the pinnacle of my sport was the world championships. For me to be stood there, no one would have sacrificed, been through what I had. Also, because my trainer come in, and I just remember hugging him and crying him. But I think a lot of anger, a lot of resentment towards the bike accident, to being told I'd never walk again, just all come out. I bottled it up, and it just all came out. Yeah. And then I turned around and remember going to the team, and everyone ran in. And then, so then I was world light heavyweight kickboxing for Great Britain, pinnacle on the sport. So it was good. The night I hadn't drank for 6 months, and we went out in the evening, and we linked up with the South African team, which didn't end well.
No, South Africans like to drink.
I was right, but my roommate, he disappeared, and I came back, and he was upside down in the shower with sick everywhere. And I just remember opening the door going, you're cleaning this, and shut the door. And we had to get a flight the next day. He was in there. So against all odds, despite being told that I'll never walk again, I became, that resilience in me kicked in that fight, and I became world champion. To move it on again, so that was the first time I'd faced death and overcome it. We're now going to move on to the next part.
Yes, well, I just think from that, I just find it so incredible.
Before I carry on.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's got any questions, obviously stick them in the comments. I just find it so incredible that you weren't just told that, you won't walk again once or whatever. It's like a few times, and like everything, you overcame so many obstacles. It's like for a start, you nearly died. They nearly didn't attach your leg. Like if you hadn't been so fit in the first place, they wouldn't have even tried that, and you would have lost your leg, and that's it, isn't it? You're not going to be a kickboxing champion from that. No. But I guess that insane drive and determination is that's just what blows my mind, I think, because most of us are just like, I don't know. I'm not saying everyone accepts what doctors say all the time, but I think there's an element of like, oh wow, if everyone's telling you that, then maybe you need to listen to it.
Don't get me wrong, it wasn't as soon as I know my process. I have to go low first, so it was like, woe is me, I'm not going to be able to walk. And then there's just a switch that I don't know where it comes from. I just go, I flip it, and I'm like, right, sort yourself out. Stop whinging. You've had a week of moaning and being, self-pity. What are you going to do about this? And I think that's and that's led me to being quite successful in anything I really put my head towards, really.
Yeah. So anyway, what happened next? Because that's definitely not the end of your story, is it?
So my last ever fight was 2011, because when I got back from the World Championships, there's a massive party at home, all my family, and as soon as they went, my wife Sam tore strips off me. Because I said, really looking forward to getting back in training. I said, I'll have a week off, and then I'm going to get back in training, ready for next year, And she went, no, you're not. I said, what do you mean? She goes, what else have you got to prove? You're world champion. She goes, we've got 2 kids, because I've got a daughter as well, Hallie, young. She doesn't even remember me going to the world championship, so she must have been about 2. And she goes, I didn't say anything, but for 6 months, it's been me. And she's a nurse as well, so she's working. And I kind of got that. So my last fight was in 2011.
This fits well with Keith's question, to be fair, because how did you deal with friends and family who maybe didn't share your beliefs? So when you were like trying to recover, and obviously you have to work so hard and putting yourself through so much pain, like you were saying with your legs every night and stuff. Did all your family and friends support you, or did any of them think this guy's lost it?
No, to be honest, great question, but Keith. But no, my wife, she's great. We're great supporters, and we've known each other for 16, and she knows what I'm like. So she supported me. She was there going, yeah, let's do it. My family did. I had a few friends who kind of not mocked me, but were kind of like, yeah, okay, Dave, yeah. But again, that kind of made me think, well, I'm going to show you as well. And I wish I knew the orthopedics surgeon's name and his details because it obviously was because I would send him pictures of me snowboarding, running, down a mountain bike, climbing, but also me stood there on the podium with a world title. So I'm very lucky, very supportive family. I've got a
and I'm sure he'd be pleased actually, that surgeon, to obviously see that, and also it would teach him something, wouldn't it, and make him think, reassess like the way he gives news, whatever.
Oh, yeah. So life's going great. I'm back in the police. I'm now a detective sergeant in Liverpool, but I'm in charge of a covert unit that deals with serious organised crime, in particular firearms.
Wow.
So if there's a firearms offence it was the Knowsley area, so it includes some really bad areas. I won't say because people may live in them. But if there was a shooting, I'd be in charge of it, and unfortunately, that happened a lot. Very high pressure job, but I didn't suffer from stress or high pressure. Where others run away from it, I kind of run towards it. And I have a saying that the pressure, external stress and pressure can burst pipes, but that same pressure can form diamonds. So I choose to look at it that pressure and stress is a positive and it can form diamonds. That's how my mind works. So I loved it. When everything else was going off around me, I'd be calm. I'd be like, yeah, do that, do that. So I was in charge of all the covert operations, warrants, intel for the area. But I was also, I'd have to work with cross-border forces, so Manchester GMP. So if any of our criminals were involved in any activities in their area, I would be the link. Unfortunately, that happened all the time. So it's May the 1st. I've never been off on time. It's a brand new unit, so I'm supposed to be doing 8 till 4. But me being me, I would get in at 6, get my head around all the intel, what operations need doing, who needs to action what. Then I'd brief my staff and we'd crack on with the day. But I would never be off on time. It would be 8, 9, 10. And this was a common pattern all week.
Yeah.
May the 1st, 2014. And I start my briefing and I'm in early as always. And I say to my staff, it's my daughter's birthday tomorrow. Now, I've not been off on time in 6, 7 months since I've been here. I need to be off on time tomorrow. So if any job comes in late this afternoon, I'm obviously going to be here because I always am. I need someone to step up and take it off me. I need to, I like to empower my staff. Yeah, no, we start. True to form that day, there's a burglary that went wrong in Manchester where a firearm was discharged. So I was dealing with the single point of contact for Greater Manchester Police, but what I also had to do was contact the Assistant Chief Constable of Merseyside Police to get authorisation for a hard stop by our firearms unit. So that means they basically get an authorisation for the firearms unit to pull the vehicle over, draw their weapons, and if needed, can use lethal force. So obviously it's a lengthy process. It's not something that just gets signed off straight away.
No, that's the difference in this country, I guess, isn't it? Like in America,
it's just shoot on sight.
They do that automatically. Yeah. That's part of what they're allowed to do. But here, obviously, there is a process you have to go through to be able to do it.
So it takes some time. And obviously this vehicle was being followed by their surveillance team. And then they lost it. So it was like, all right. And Joe, one of my staff, goes, Sarge, I've dealt with one of these authorizations before. It's now 9, half 9. Get yourself off home. I know you're going to be back in the morning. And you have those people on your team who, if you give them something, they'll do it. She was one of these. So I was like, Joe, you're a star. So I went home. I said, I'll see you in the morning. So I went home. I just remember eating some cereal, getting into bed, say about 10:30. The next thing I know, I came round in my bed at midnight. I had paramedics working on me. I'd suffered a 15-minute nocturnal seizure in my sleep. Now, if you are to suffer a seizure for over 5 minutes, it starves your brain of oxygen. Now, I'd gone for 15 minutes. I'd also stopped breathing. I came round, and the first thing I did was try to kick the paramedics out of my house. So I woke up and I was groggy. I was asleep, so I didn't have any feelings of leading up to that seizure. I didn't know I'd had a seizure. I just came round. I was just groggy, just tired. That's what I thought. And I was trying to get rid of them. And I looked to where Sam, my wife, sleeps, and she wasn't there. So I looked to the right, and she's there, tears coming down her eyes, saying, do you think I'd phone the ambulance? You'd stop breathing. I was like, no, I didn't. And then the paramedics are brilliant. And he said, Dave, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm in the police. And he said, where'd you work? Don't know. What's your surname? Don't know. Suddenly all these questions, GP, where do I live? Hadn't got a clue. So I knew there was something wrong then. I thought, right. I then noticed that there was blood on my pillow, and I'd bitten the back corner of my tongue off through the seizure. I'd also dislocated my right arm.
Blimey, that's some seizure.
Yeah, so I was rushed to Arrow Park Hospital, Resus, where they thought I had bacterial or viral meningitis. because I was littered in spots. But Sam, being a nurse, said, if you were at that stage now, you wouldn't be speaking, you wouldn't be how you were. Basically, because my seizure was that violent and that aggressive, I burst all the capillaries in my body.
Oh my
So
God.
all the spots were on show. Long story short, I was in there all day. Obviously, it's my daughter's birthday. The in-laws had come round, who I get on really well with, had come round in the morning. So the kids, luckily the kids did not see me being worked on. They didn't even know the ambulance had been there, which I'm very thankful for.
Obviously good sleepers, unlike my
Yeah,
children.
So we're there, and I'm in a private room because I'm supposed to be in quarantine because they thought I had a meningitis, which we knew we didn't. Me being me, I'm saying, if I don't get the results soon, I'm checking myself out. This is ridiculous. I've got work, I've got work next week and stuff because it's Friday. And then the consultant came in who'd been in charge of me, and I'd had MRIs, I'd had CT scans, I'd had loads, and she was taken a bit back by everyone in my room, and she goes, "We've got some news for you. Do you want me to do it here?" And I just knew it was bad, so I threw everyone out, bar my wife, Sam, and he just sat there and said, "We're not a specialist hospital, but we've been in contact with Walton. One of your scans has been sent over to them." So Walton's like the Walton Centre for Neurology. So I was thinking, and he said, "Unfortunately, you've got a large tumour in the front hemisphere of your brain. It's a glioma tumour because where it is. But as we're not a specialist, we don't know anymore." And obviously, getting told that, my kind of my body language sank, and then it's weird to explain what it's like to be told you've got cancer. I was just sat there, thought, right, what's going on? So I looked at my wife Sam, and as soon as I saw her, just the waterworks came out. I was sent away because they said the horrible thing was, though, it was a Friday and it was a bank holiday on the Monday. So, and the weather was stunning. And I got, and I remember it because I wanted to get out because Liverpool were playing the final game of the season. It's Newcastle. I know you're a Liverpool fan, so it's
yeah.
So they put me on medical steroids, which are brutal. And what that does, that protects the lining of the brain and also the integrity of the tumour, so it doesn't swell anymore. Because mine had got that big; it was a tennis ball size. I had no headache.
That's obviously what had caused the seizure.
Yeah, I had no headaches, no sign. I think it just got that big. It pressed and it flipped something in my brain to cause me that seizure. And I was sent away on medical steroids and then anti-seizure tablets and then tablets to counteract the effects of the steroids, and then just loads. So I got sent away. It was probably the worst 4 days of my life trying to act normal. And the reason why I say that is I was working about a year earlier, the Everton versus Tottenham game, where I was in charge of a riot team. Now, you have people or officers from all over, so they're not necessarily my team. And there's a lad there who supported Everton. I support Liverpool. So we had banter between each other, ourselves. 3 weeks later, he had a stroke and a seizure. He died 3 months later as a result of a brain tumour. So that's all I thought happened to me. So I attended on Tuesday Walton Neurological Centre, where, again, just by chance, had Professor Elgers, who is the top brain, or was. He's retired. I can't believe he's retired. How dare he? But he sets the guidelines for NICE, which are the guidelines for surgery. So he sets the guidelines for neurosurgery. So anyone in the country who's especially gets stuck, go to him, and he was my surgeon. So I had to get another thing. Wow, that's gone wrong. And I said to them, it feels like I've been on death row. And I've just walked the Green Mile, which is into this office. Now I'm sat in a chair waiting to know whether I'm going to be executed. You're the governor. And he went, yeah. He said, I said, what time frame? He said, no, there's definitely something we can do. So I was booked in for surgery 6 weeks later because it was diagnosed as a low grade because it was white. So it held the dye in, because you get dye put in when you have a scan and it holds it. If it's black, it means it's not holding the dye. It means the tumour is mutating. So I was sent away for 6 weeks. Worst 6 weeks of my life.
Yeah, I bet.
Just didn't sleep. I go to bed, say 2, 3 in the morning. I'd get to sleep about 2, 3 because all I had in my head was, I'm going to die. I'm not going to walk my daughter down the aisle. I'm not going to see my son get married. I'm not going to see him grow up to be the man I know he is. I'm not, I'm going to leave my wife a widow. She's going to have debt. She's going to have to sell the house. Just all these just swirling constantly in my head.
That's what I've always said, especially since I've had children, that my fear for dying isn't necessarily for me now. Yeah, exactly. It's more about how my family would feel, like how the children would feel without me. That's what scares me more than anything about me not being here anymore. Well, I won't know because I won't be here. But it's the people you leave behind, isn't it?
That's exactly it. And it's hard. People don't get that, but I wasn't even worried about myself. I'm going to die. All right, yeah, great. But it was more, don't get that wrong. I was scared of dying.
Yeah, of course. But I do think it's a massive impact.
Was my family. And well, are they going to be all right? I mean, my wife would say, behave yourself, we're fine. You know, money's not an issue. We'll sell the house, we'll do this. But it's just everything. It was just a bad time. And then I'd wake up an hour later, those same thoughts would swirl in my head. So I wrote a blog at the time. My bed was like a prison. So I got up and I go downstairs 3, 4 in the morning and I do one or two things. I'd either do decorating to take my mind off stuff. So Sam would come down sometimes and I'd have the doors off, painting them. I even once did a feature wall with wallpaper. But for me being stupid and thinking back there about mental health and how it not being so much at the forefront, I didn't want my kids to see me crying or being weak. I also didn't want to see my wife to let her know that I was struggling, because she was holding the family together. She had to worry about me, worry about the kids. She had a job. Work were amazing. As soon as that happened, she was told, "Don't worry about coming back in until you're ready." So what I wanted to do was just release this kind of this pain I was in. So I'd go for a run. Now, I had my seizure at night, so I shouldn't have gone for it at all. So I'd start running, and it would only be like 5K, nothing major. And the first mile into it, I'd just be crying my eyes out, just letting it all out, that process, why me? So I'm crying. And what always makes me laugh, and I can't do this in my talks, is I'll be running down the street and I'd run past dog walkers. Now, I always used to think, what must they have thought? I reckon they thought, listen, mate, if you don't like running, why are you doing it? Because all they're going to see is
just weeping.
Just crying his eyes out. But then the next mile, I kind of go, right, sort yourself out. You've got that out. Today's going to be a good day. And I get back in without anyone knowing, and I'll be in a good mood. And then one day I was in the shower and Sam walks in and says, "Why are you having a shower at 5:30 in the morning?" I said, "Oh, I'm just really sweaty." And she went, "Really? Why don't you pick up your running gear next time?" And I was like, so she tore strips off me, but she understood why I was doing it.
Yeah.
Fast forward now, 6 weeks, booked into Walton. And now I like being put to sleep. I've had that many operations through my bike accident, through my fight career. I like fighting that feeling. This time was completely different. Professor Eldridge came the night before and he said, "Listen, he's not very good with people." So I never saw him. I'm jumping ahead. Forget. He's not very good with people. He's kind of on the spectrum, which I think you have to be that good and to be that.
Yeah, you do get that with a very high level.
You don't want someone who's out on the lash all the time. So he's so high level. So he's not great with people. So then he sits down and he goes, "So just to let you know, tomorrow the operation, there is a high chance that it may be fatal. If you are to survive, there is a chance of strokes, aneurysms, bleed on the brains, infections, but also where my tumor was where my higher level of thinking is, and also where my personality was. So if I was to kind of even survive this, I may not come back as the person I was." So I had all that in my head. I needn't have worried. I was up speaking after surgery after 3 hours.
Wow. And
I was discharged within 3 days of having major brain surgery. So they're cutting a square in your skull, remove it, probably chuck it away. They bulk the tumour, so we got 99% out of the tumour, and then I've got titanium plates up in my head with screws sticking out. You can feel them all over.
You're like the $6 million man, aren't you?
Yeah. So,
held together with screws.
Yeah, well, the legs, all the metalwork's been taken out of all my legs by then now, anyway.
Oh wow!
So I was like, great. I chose to take retirement from the police. I was given a 5-year life prognosis because it was diagnosed as an astrocytoma, grade 2. So I was like, great. So the police were brilliant. They get a bad rep sometimes the way they treat staff. They were saying to me, "Stay in. You don't have to come into work, and we'll pay you full pay." But I thought, well, if I've got 5 years left, I want to do something different. I want to go in a different direction, one that's not taking me away from work, from home so much. And I wanted to do something else, while I could. So I already had my strength and conditioning qualifications, so I became a strength and conditioning coach. So I ended up working with some UFC MMA stars, top boxers coming up, rugby teams, Stoke ladies football team, rehabilitating them. And I was working in a gym which hosted elite athletes in Hoylake. It's called the Underground Training Station, where they host elite athletes, Olympic team, but also members as well, train alongside them. It's a really good, friendly gym. So it's virtually a year. I'm having these 3 monthly scans, and I go in for virtually a year. So July, so May, surgery June, end of June. So we're not even talking just over a year. I go in for my scan, and Professor Eldridge is there. And as I said before, he's never there for meetings. I have a nurse called Anna Crofton, a neo nurse who we were great friends with. I ended up being really good friends. So as soon as I walked in, my heart sank, and I sat down with Sam and with my sister, who were like the team, and my mum. I said, "Go on then," and he turned the screen around. There was a walnut-sized mass in the central hemisphere of my brain, which is black. Straight away, me being me, I think I was just displacing my anger because I was in the fittest I've been. I'd made so many changes. I just started saying, I'm not having radio, I'm not having chemo, I'm not putting that rubbish in my body. You can do one, proper. But it was more just, I think I was just displacing my anger at the whole situation again.
Yeah.
I'd come back, I'd fought back. I thought, I was in great shape. And not even 5 years later, a year later, that was it. And I said, it's a glioblastoma. Now, a glioblastoma, multiforme of 4, is the world's most deadliest tumour. It's the biggest killer in the 40s. And in the medical world, they call it the Terminator. So if you think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. So the life prognosis with that is 18 months. No one really goes past 18 months. It's very rare. So I had this anger. He said, listen, let's just get you into surgery. I was in surgery 48 hours later. So I've been 6 weeks on the last one. I was rushed in. This time going down for surgery, I wasn't bothered at all. I've been through it. Surgery didn't go to plan. From scan to surgery, so 2 weeks, that walnut-sized mass had doubled in size. That's how aggressive it was. Bloody so hell. Luckily, I was being scanned every 3 months, because if it was any longer, it might have been too late. I spent a night in intensive care unit, a day in the high dependency unit, and then 14 further days in hospital trying to get on top of that pain, trying to get myself sorted, because it was a lot longer operation with a lot more damage occurred, unfortunately. And my scar was a lot bigger, so it was there to there. You can probably just see the edge of it there. Where are we? There. So that goes.
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
There now. Usually my hair's shorter, but stuck in lockdown. The barbers are closed. So we're there, I'm trying to get back on the pain. I'm just about to be discharged, and Anna Crofton comes up and we say, we've got the results from your histology. So they send a tiny piece of the tumour away for, do you want the results here? And Sam was with me. So I said, yeah. So we went into the family room, and she sat there, and there was tears in her eyes, because we've got this quite good relationship, friendship. We're still friends even to this day. We message each other. And so I put my hand on her knee and I said, it's a glioblastoma. I've got 12 hours to live. Whatever you say now is a bonus, isn't it? And she kind of was like, she goes, it is a glioblastoma, multiforme, and you do have more than 12 hours to live. She goes, do you want to know your life prognosis? Because I like to know everything, and I always ask. And I said, yeah.
I'm the same.
I was like, is it the usual? So the usual is 3 months without treatment, or 12 to 18 months with treatment. And she went, not for you, it isn't, unfortunately, because mine was a wild type and it was that aggressive. It was 6 to 8 months with treatment. So I was like, right. So then I had this decision to make. Do I want to go through dual radiotherapy and chemotherapy for 6 months to then die, being in pain, not enjoying life and having no quality of life? Or do I want to go away and spend the next 3 months of my life living the best life I can, making as many memories as I can with the kids and my family and my friends, surrounding myself with all those who love me? So I went away from hospital with that decision to make, and it's not an easy one to make. I slept into one of probably, as I said before at the beginning, I don't get depressed. I don't suffer with stress. I slept into one of the darkest periods of my life I can ever imagine. It's so hard to get across how dark my world was for that at the beginning. I lost all motivation to do anything. I basically faced death, looked it in the eyes and went, yeah, I don't care. I'll die. And I was lying on a couch waiting to die, literally. And I kind of always say it's like that time-lapse cinematography, is that the word? Where once something stationary in the film and then everything else is going, that was me. I was lying on the couch and life was going on around me all the way. So we're about a week into this now. I'd given up on everything. I was eating rubbish, and Sam goes, we're going for a run. And I said, I'm not going for a run. She goes, we are. I said, I'm not. We are. Why would I go for a run? Why would I put myself through pain? I'm going to die. I said, what is the point? And obviously women are always right. And I ended up going on this run. But you know what? Thank God she did. That run was horrific. I stopped. I was retching. I had stitch. I had to sit down. I thought I was going to pass out. My wife absolutely battered me, which never happened. So I knew there was something seriously wrong with me then. But I got back that night. I slept just that little bit better. I felt a tiny bit better, nothing major. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm downstairs. I'm in the front room, pitch black, crying into my hands. And I just said, right, what are you doing? I said, you said you were going to go away and live the best life you can. All you've done is sat on a couch and have a pity party, moaning about the cards you've been dealt once again in life. Do you know what? And then I thought, I didn't think I was going to live at this point. I thought if 6 to 8 months is the average, because it must be an average, then there must be people who go before them, but there must be people who get right up to 18 months. I've never been average at anything, so why am I going to start now? And that was me flipping the switch, and I treated it as though it was a fight. I named my tumor Terry the tumor, and I geared my health, forming good habits, sleeping, nutrition, exercise, physical fitness, mindfulness, just to tackle it 360 degrees to give myself that best chance. I engaged in so obviously I went through, the first part was doing 6 weeks of dual radio and chemotherapy, which is brutal, absolutely brutal. You go in as one person, you come out as a different person completely. I say I'm going to get fried. In the last week of radio and chemo, I was starting to really struggle, and they were saying, you've done really well to get this far, without any breaks in the treatment, because it's every day radiotherapy and chemotherapy at the same time.
That's so intense.
Yeah, it's brutal. In my last week, I just remember coming home from the treatment on the Monday. So I'm in my last week. I've got to get me till Friday. I'm nearly there. The finish line's there, and I get into bed. I feel horrendous, and Sam's downstairs because she'd taken me. Obviously, I can't drive. Family and friends were taking me everywhere. I lost my license, and she's staying downstairs. I had one single negative thought in bed, which then kind of mutated into a panic attack. Now, I've never had a panic attack ever. So I start panic attack, and I've been doing meditation. So I just felt all this. I felt as I was going to die. I couldn't breathe properly. I felt this pressure pushing me into the bed. So I started trying to meditate, to bring myself down. The next thing, I'm outside. I suffered a full mental breakdown, psychological breakdown due to this.
Wow.
I was spinning around on the front outside the house, arms up to the sky. I thought I'd been sent down from the universe, from God, from heaven, whoever it was, to cleanse the earth because it was toxic. I thought I could stop time. I could stop people's heartbeats.
God, sounds like you had a real David Icke moment there.
Oh, completely. But when you're basically I was away with the fairies, but when you're in that episode, that's like it's real. You believe everything and everyone else is wrong. So, but I've also got all this white noise going off in my ears, like screaming noise, in the old days when you turn say transmission, it's just like, that's what I had in my ears. So I'd shout everything as well. So Sam had me, and she laid me down. She goes, I phoned the ambulance, and I'm like, good, I'm glad you phoned the ambulance, which made it even worse. So I got rushed into resus again at a Park Hospital. You know what? If the NHS had a loyalty scheme with loyalty cards, I'd have my own hospital after me by now. I've used it that much. Thankfully, it's free, else I wouldn't have the money. But yeah. So I think I was a couple of hours away from being sectioned. I've been in there for about 4 days. I kind of had come out of that episode now. I knew I'd had one. But because you've had this episode, you're physically drained, mentally and physically. I still had that white noise. So when I spoke, I shouted things and it didn't come out properly. And unfortunately, the staff who were on the ward with me were quite patronising and made me feel as though I was insane. So I then refused to speak, which is probably the worst thing you can do. So a few hours before I think I was about to be sectioned, Clatterbridge Hospital, which is the oncology centre where I was getting my treatment, sent up this guy. I'm going to say his name's Brian. It just popped into my head. And basically, he was a neurologist, oncologist, psychologist. So he's a guy who deals with brain cancer and is a psychologist. And the first thing he said to me was, he'd obviously read my notes, is, just to let you know, before I get onto an aeroplane, I have to meditate. I don't know what it was. I suddenly trusted him, and I got speaking, and eventually I was discharged. And the reason why I'd had this mental breakdown was because I'd been left on dexamethasone steroids for too high a dose for too long. That, with the radiotherapy, with the chemotherapy, with the negative, was just the perfect storm just to flip that switch in my brain. After that, I was fine. I then had to go through 6 months of double strength chemotherapy. So my cycle would be a week in chemotherapy, a week gradually feeling horrific, a week feeling horrific. Then the third week I'd be, up and about, walking, getting out in the fresh air. And then my last week I'd be taken to the gym where I do very light stuff, nothing major. You say gym, you think just getting that movement going to make myself feel better. Cycle 1, they didn't give me enough antiemetics, so anti-sickness. So on the last day of chemotherapy at home, I started being sick from about 9:30 at night till about 8, 9, 10 o'clock the next morning, constantly, every half hour.
God, being sick's the worst.
Yeah, so I was drinking water, and it was that violent that my clothes got soaked. So every half hour I was putting on soap. In the end, I just thought, strip off, just may as well stay naked. And I was being sick. Then parts of my stomach were coming up, so I was drinking stuff knowing I was going to be sick. Got to the point where I was about to pass out and said I need to go in. Rushed into hospital. Got the loyalty card stamped. Obviously, was given IV anti-seizure tablets, which IV anti-seizure medication, which was great. I was completely off my head. Didn't know what was going on, but which was good because it took that pain away. Sent away. Same thing happened for cycle 2. Same thing happened for cycle 3. So I was constantly being taken back in and out of hospital. They'd given me more dose of the antiemetics, gave me the cheap version, the better version. In the end, he said, "I would never." My doctor husband, he's retired as well. Why is everyone retiring? Me oncology.
Can't deal with anyone after they've dealt with you. We're never going to meet another day.
Never had anyone be so sick as for you ever. I said, "Oh, great." And he's like, "So we're going to try it." And he tried me on this thing called Aprions, which is not used for brain tumor patients. It actually worked really well. So I thought, right, we're on top of it. Cycle 4 is good. Flew through it. Still feel really ill. Don't get me wrong. It's still not great.
But relatively speaking,
which was exhausting me, being sick, because obviously it's cycle 5. Me being me, I'm massively into rugby. I go to a lot of the Six Nations game, and I had already booked tickets to go to the Six Nations, England versus Wales at Twickenham. So we were going down on the hotel Friday, Saturday, come back on Sunday. This was the day the day I'd finished chemo in the morning. So gradually feeling worse. I'd also stopped taking my seizure tablets 2 weeks before because I was told I would never have a seizure again. But also the tablets I were on, Keppra, which is the brand name. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the other name. You say if you have one drink on it, it will feel like 6 or 7. Now, I didn't want to get drunk, but I just wanted some normality in my life again. For the past 18 months, I've been engulfed in this world of cancer. People checking on me. I grieved the person who I used to be, that fit person who could do what they wanted to, who was in charge. I was now a shell of my former person. I just wanted a break from cancer for a weekend of reality, the treatment, the lot. My friend Nick, who always came with us, dropped out the day before. This is where fate comes into it again. I got my best mate Matt from school to come. Doesn't like rugby, but I said it's a free weekend. We're staying in Windsor. Just bring your ale money. Awesome. So we travelled down. We get to the hotel where they messed the rooms up. We were all supposed to have single rooms. We were all in doubles, which was fine. So Matt jumped in with me. We went. So we stayed Friday night. Didn't do too much. Saturday went into Twickenham. Watched the rugby. England won, which was great. Tight, close game. A bit too close to be honest. So we then went back to Windsor. Now, what would usually happen is we'd all go out into Windsor, get on the ale. There's a couple of clubs, get back in about 3, 4 in the morning. So we get back into Windsor about 9, and I went, I'm really not feeling well. I just want to go to bed and get my head down. And they were like, yeah, go on, we're going to go out. So I said, yeah, go and enjoy yourself. So then my mate Matt says, I'll come with you. So I'm like, no, don't come with me. I said, go and enjoy yourself. He goes, to be honest, I want to get to bed. I want to do a little bit of shopping before we set off tomorrow for his wife. I said, oh, come on then. Get him to bed, lie down, come round 2 days later in Slough Hospital.
Oh my God.
5 seasons.
Slough, unlucky.
I know, yeah, Wexham Hospital in Slough. And then I came round with my sister and my wife next to me. I dislocated both shoulders and I bit my tongue clean in half this time.
Oh God.
So, and I was littered in bruises because apparently I fell off the bed. That's the one, exactly.
There you go. That's the right name. Harry literally knows everything. He's one of those people who's popped up my lives and he'll know the answer.
You know what? It's really good anti-seizure as well because loads of people have problems with it. I have that and I've never been changed off it. So my dosing's right. It's just I took myself off it, unfortunately. But yeah, so in a really bad way. If Nick had come, and he's already said this before, I wouldn't have come back with you. I'd have gone out. If they hadn't messed up the hotel rooms, I'd have been there having because the only reason why I stopped is because he ran down, raised the alarm and got the paramedics there and they gave me anticonvulsant drugs that stopped it. And the damage I did after 5 was 2 dislocated shoulders, bit clean. I may not be able to tell. I'd have just been having seizures all night until whoever Nick come in at 4. So this is so. So I had to deal with that, and then cycle 6 was fine, and then off a crack. It then got to a point there I got past 18 months survival rate, and this is the part where I thought, do you know what? I'm going to outlive this. I'm going to be a new type of statistic, one that's out there trailblazing that way. And it's got there, and every scan was better and better, to the point they're like, well, there's nothing really on the scan. You're all clear. Because it's a standard thing they say. It says, are you fitting well? Yeah, I'm fitting well. Have you got any seizures? No. Just to let you know, the scan is all stable and there's no reoccurrence. And then one time he said, your scan's all clear. But because I'm in his own, I was just so elated. I forgot to ask, does that mean there's nothing there? But I think it is. But with my topa tumor, I will be on scans for life, because I can never be in remission. It always comes back. So even though a scan may say it's clear, there could be cells there that don't show up.
A few cells, yeah.
So I live every single day knowing that potentially it could spark back into life. But what I choose to do is ignore that. I choose not to fuel it with that negative and that worry, because when we worry or we get stressed, it produces cortisol, which is inflammatory, and you don't want to be doing that. I choose to believe, I'm realistic, I know it can come back, but I choose to believe that it won't, and that I'm cured of cancer. And it's got me up to quite a good point. I'm now, I've stolen 5 years of life now, so I'm a great thief. But I'm now on 6 monthly scans. I'm also one of only a few to have their driving license back. And I know this because at one of my 6 monthly scans, say about a year ago, I went in, and you go in you have your MRI scan, and they give you the dye, and they say you've got to stay around half an hour afterwards just in case it has an adverse effect. Now, I'd had about 40 of these by now. So I was like, yeah, I understand. They said, who's picking you up? I said, oh, I'm taking myself home. I said, but I know I have to stay for half an hour. So I go in and I'm getting changed, and there's a knock on the door, and it says, hi, it's Julie, I'm the radiographer manager. Can I have a chat with you? And I say, well, want some change? So I open the door, and she goes, how are you getting home? And I said, I'm driving. And she went, are you allowed to drive? And I said, yeah, why? And she went, oh, okay. Are you sure? Because if something's happens to you on the way home, I'm responsible for allowing you to go and drive. So are you sure? Do you want me to phone someone? I said, no, I can drive. So when I got my driving license, she goes, oh, I'm really sorry, but we've never had anyone get their driving license with a glioblastoma through here. So I was like, okay. So, yeah. So then, and then
record breaker right now.
Yeah, so then scans have just got better and better, and I've had to deal with a lot, really. In the past 18 months have been okay, apart from COVID and obviously all that's fell back on that. But in those 5 years, just before I got diagnosed, I lost my 9-year-old cousin. My cousin's Eve, so my second cousin, through neuroblastoma. So the world's most aggressive childhood of cancer.
Yeah.
And people say, how do you stay so positive? Because her and Eve and Rachel, she'd be getting chemotherapy. She dealt with it for 5 years of her life, over half her life. She'd be going, you've got to be positive, haven't you? What's the point? She'd bouncing on a bed with a PICC lining, getting chemotherapy. So I just think, if she can do it at that age, I can do it.
Kids are incredible the way they're so resilient.
So resilient. So I was like, well, so can I. But then I lost both my grandparents as well, both my nans. And unfortunately, on the day in 2016, on the day of my mum's nan, my mum's mum, my nan funeral, we found out that my mum had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, stage 4. And unfortunately, in 2018, I still can't talk about it properly. In 2018, on the 28th of August, she passed away, unfortunately. But we were with her at St. John's Hospice, holding her hand at the time. So it's bad, but it was good that, because we were there and we knew she wasn't in any pain. We also lost. I also got skin cancer in 2018 on my chest.
Hell.
I never talk about it usually because it's so insignificant, because it was just a benign
compared to anything else.
Yeah, so we also lost a pregnancy, a child at 3 months. So a lot of adversity in that, but I believe that I'm a very positive person. I choose to look for a positive in a situation. See, I have cancer, but cancer doesn't have me. I have to live every single day knowing it may come back, but I choose not to accept that. I tell you what, people get weird. I'm actually grateful for having terminal cancer, for having this in my head, because I see life through new eyes now. I cherish the smallest moments in life. If you remember, I used to work 12, 13, 14 hours a day all week. And then at weekends, I'd play rugby and I'd coach it. I now get to spend time with my family more. I walk my daughter to school. I get to watch her plays because she's really good.
It's changed everything.
Yeah,
this is a really good question from Paul about how did your wife look after herself emotionally and mentally? Because obviously she supported you the whole way through.
Yeah, definitely. She's amazing. I often wonder why she's still with me after everything I've put through. But yeah, I don't think she'll mind me saying that she had to go onto antidepressants just to cope, really, because obviously looking after the kids. And with the news that potentially I'm not going to be here, she had to deal with that. So she went on antidepressants. I know there's a stigma around them and everything, but what that helped her do, and she had support. Don't get wrong, we've got great families and a massive support base, which was great. So we can lean on. And she lent on me, and I lent on her. But yeah, she took antidepressants just for a year, and I said, "What was that like?" She was just numb. I just didn't have to cry, didn't need to, and I think that's what got her through that initial.
Yeah, exactly. That got her through that bit.
And she came off them, so yeah, she's brilliant. She's been a rock for me. But as I said, my sister Viv, she's brilliant. So she's a midwife, so she's always been there for her. But she's got other sisters, and she's got a large family, and I have. So
yeah, support network.
We kind of lean on each other. So yeah.
But yeah, so obviously you say you see life through different eyes now because of that, and you're grateful to it, which is amazing to hear, really, because normally you think people will be really bitter about it, but obviously that doesn't get you anywhere, does it, being bitter? No. But so how would you, I want to ask you really, if you've got any tips for people, how do you get that mindset without having a near-death experience? Because obviously most of us, if we get something bad happens like that, we may not make it through the other side. Obviously we hope we do, but you can't. I know because people a lot with stuff. You think, I want to be like that, but I haven't. That hasn't happened.
Resilience is primarily a foundational tool that allows us or empowers us to overcome certain uncertainty. In layman's terms, it's just a person's decision to not give up when that's the easiest thing to do. Now, a lot of people think, "Oh, you're born with it." No, but like a muscle in the gym, your brain's a muscle, so you need to apply different stimuluses to it, and different. There's thousands of different ways, but it's looking for the positives in the situations. Now, there'll always be one. Now, it's easy to be positive when everything's going good for you, but when setbacks happen, that's your true test of character. Now, it's something that you have to practice and learn, and it's one very simple way is to change that change the way you speak and your inner monologue in your head. So you'll hear a lot of people saying, "I can't do this, I can't do it, I can't." That's negative straight away.
I'm terrible for that, I'll be honest. It doesn't stop me doing the thing, but I do often do that.
And I've coached athletes, and some of the top ones I won't say who are saying I can't do that, and they just can't be bothered. But what you need to do is retrain that thought process and say, right, I'm not able to do it now, but with time and practice, I will be able to do it. It's when you're stop looking at a negative situation. Like, if you address a problem, what we do, we kind of personalize it. We think of the negative situation and negative. Start visualizing it better, visualizing a more positive outcome. And positivity is key for everything. I say when we are positive, when you've got a positive mind, negative's hard to enter it. Another one would be surround yourself with people who are on the same side. Hang on, mouth so dry.
We have been talking a lot.
Surround yourself with like-minded people who are kind of positive and on that same mission, because they'll only bring you up, they won't drag you down. It's like, we all know it. We have people, family, work colleagues who you're in a good mood, you come in and all they do is moan. We all know that one person who's so negative and moans. They moan about the food, what's on telly, the work. You come away from that drained, they sap your energy. So it's important that you keep away from those sorts of people. And if you are forced to engage with them, don't absorb that, don't agree with them, just and then move away. There's loads of different compounds. Visualization is a big one. So visualizing a better outcome, a more positive outcome. I used that a lot when I was going through my fighting career. That's a go given. You visualize how you win.
Visualize the win.
Yeah, but I did it in my cancer as well. So when I had that negative thought of you're going to die, I'd close my eyes and I'd immerse myself in a vision, and it'd be me walking my daughter down the aisle and me saying her speech at her wedding. I know what I'm going to say at her wedding already. So it's replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. Yeah, I don't know if that's answered your question properly.
Yeah, no, it has.
When you get the details, do you find you can put a fence around it and work away from? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's. Are we talking about when I got told my life prognosis and you can't do this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess it's like when you get some kind of negative, bad news or whatever. What do you
yeah,
then
that's it.
do?
Yeah,
And it's
you
like,
compartmentalize it. You deal with it first. So you accept the bad news or that situation, and then what I'll do is like put as he says, I'll ring fence it. Right, what can I do to what is the process for me to get out of this situation or to work towards, and setting small goals to reach the main objective
yeah,
really works. And it
what
works.
I've been learning with my anxiety is almost acknowledging it is a good thing. Like
Yeah,
rather than just trying to hide from whatever it is. Like,
yeah,
oh, I'll just throw myself into something else and pretend that's not happening. It's accepting whatever the situation is
yeah,
and acknowledging that, and then realizing how you feel about it, and that's okay. Well, however you feel is fine. You don't.
yeah.
It's not. Oh, I shouldn't feel
Because
like this.
we're
You
worrying
feel
about,
what you feel, don't you? That's
yeah,
fine. But then you kind of almost take a step back from it and see yourself doing it, and then that almost helps in itself because you're kind of visualizing it in a different way, and then you can,
take
like
yourself
say, make
out
a
of the
plan.
situation. Yeah, exactly. Take yourself, which is hard to do sometimes. People
Of
can't
course
do
it
that.
is.
It takes time and practice, as you've done. But yeah, definitely that is one way as well.
Yeah, it's something I'm working on because
Yeah,
I'm going through some therapy for my anxiety at the
yeah. And I
moment,
just
and
mean, just to carry on with it. Yeah, it's having that problem. And what I like to do is I set goals to work my way towards it. So you're planning it because if you've got a goal and you've got no plan to get there, then you're never going to get there. So it's important to have these little goals, which also give you that little bit of a endorphin kick. Oh, ticked it off. It gives you that motivation to keep you going on that goal. Should we say to working towards working the problem, but also never see failure as a negative thing. Failure is a lesson.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
find hard because I hate the thought of any
yeah.
kind of failure. So I try not to do things I might fail at, which is stupid because then you never can
Yeah.
grow
We
or
learn.
learn.
Everyone fails. People don't achieve their goal. Don't fail to choose their goals, their dreams, their aspirations because they fail. They fail them because they quit. Yeah. We need to taste that bitterness of defeat. We need to learn from it. It needs to build our foundational strength. And a prime example I always say is Thomas Edison had 1,000 failed experiments. So he tried 1,000 times failing this experiment. On his 1,001st, he invented the light bulb. Now, if he'd have quit halfway through or failed, because quitting, pain, adversity, setbacks are temporary. That's what you have to remember. They are temporary. You will get through them. It may be painful. It may be hard, but though you will get through them. Quitting or even failing to try, well, that's permanent. That'll live with you forever. So
It's that
quitting,
resilience, isn't it? It's that resilience
exactly, yeah.
to anything that happens. So I have to ask you because we probably should wrap this up soon.
Now I have
Really
looked
long,
around.
isn't it? It's fine.
I'm all right, but it's everyone else.
Well, we can't do your story short. It just doesn't,
No,
it doesn't do it justice.
I have tried.
But I find you quite obviously a really, really inspiring person. I'm sure you've inspired loads of people. But who do you find inspiring? Because I feel like how can there be anyone that you find inspiring when you've kind of like the pinnacle of inspiration?
I've never been asked that question. Who do I? There was one person, going back to my cancer. You get told, don't Google anything, but you do, and all it was bad news stories. That's all it was. Death. And I came across a woman in America called Cheryl Proyles. I think she's in Canada, living in America, and I found that she'd been living with it for 8 years. And I was like, well, that was my hope. So I reached out to her, and she became a bit of an inspiration to me. And I think that's now happened. I'm an inspiration for a lot of other people because I run websites and groups on Facebook to help cancer patients. I've set up, my Dave Bolton inspires that one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you to finish with. Really, just say what is it you do now? And
so I used to be an S&C coach for athletes. I now get when you get diagnosed with cancer, the financial burden is horrendous on the family. You lose your job. If you want to be proactive in fighting it, it costs a lot. So the first thing you don't want to be doing is paying for a specialist to put you through a training session. So I get funding now, and I work as part of their medical team alongside their physios, their GPs, their surgeons to prehabilitate or rehabilitate them. And for me, it is the most rewarding thing. When I was coaching your professional athletes, I was looking for 1% gains. Now, if they didn't get that, they don't get a PB. They don't do it. In their world, it's massive. Grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything, does it? I'm now helping improve someone's quality of life for them to go through surgery or to recover from surgery, which is huge. I'm impacting their whole life. For me, that's the most rewarding thing you can do. So I do that.
And like you said, if you hadn't been through everything you've been through, you would never have been on that path now
doing
that.
Still been going that kind of notoriety. Oh yeah, I'm working with so and so. Oh, I'm I don't care about that anymore. I'm just I want to give back to people. I want to help people who are less fortunate, and I'm very fortunate that I get to go around the UK and into Europe telling my story, and I talk about how we can build mental resilience, leadership qualities. But I just love life at the moment, and it's and I think everyone should live their life as if I was to say, if you had a year to live, what would you do? Who would you spend your time with? Where would you go on holiday? Obviously, COVID.
I know this year's been a bit, a bit shit for that.
Who would you surround your time with? What hobbies would you take up? Would you take up any sport? Who would you reach out and reconnect with? Well, why does it have to take a seismic event that happened to me, like a timer? You should be doing that now.
No, you shouldn't, because at the end of the day, you could walk outside and be hit by a bus. You could die at any moment. We don't know. Most of us don't get given a time scale, actually, do we? So
I say, and every day we are edging closer towards that end. Not to be morbid, but there's no redos, there's no go overs, there's no start agains, there's no respawns. You only get one chance at life.
You do. So what the hell are we messing around? Like, why are we sitting around moaning, or why are we sitting watching crap on the TV when you could be doing something productive?
Kind of people they work and they work and they work to exist, and then to eventually get to an age of a pension and say, well, for this government, 80 years probably now, they're not able to do it. Why aren't we enjoying our time now? Why aren't we, working to live, to spend those experiences, to make those moments, to make those memories? It's just, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't like this before cancer. I was positive, but I wasn't overly like. Now I just cherish everything, and life is so short and so precious that I cherish every moment of it.
That's why I wanted to have you on, though, because I think I want to pass that on to as many people as possible, and really important it with myself, because it's you need to make the most of every bloody day, don't we? It's ridiculous.
And live in the moment today, because you'll hear people say, "Oh, I can't wait for the weekend. I can't wait for the weekend." On the Sunday, we all wasting 5 days wishing the week.
I know.
That's 240 days a year that you're wasting wishing away.
Wish away your days is terrible.
Enjoy the day, accept it. Go to bed next day. It's going to be a good day tomorrow. It's good. Start your day like that. Wake up, right, go. If you go to bed going, oh, can't be bothered with work tomorrow, you're going to wake up like that as well.
And actually, even if you have obviously a bad day or whatever and things don't go to plan, I always try and remind myself that you don't know what's going to happen next. And so why not expect the next thing that happens will be amazing?
Perfect.
You don't know. It could be, couldn't it? The next thing that happens to you, you don't know what's going to happen. It could be absolutely amazing.
What I get a lot is, oh, you're always so positive. No, I'm not. I have days. It's so hard to be constant. I am positive. It's not as if I force it. But some days I wake up and I'm just in it. Don't feel right. I can't be bothered. I'm like, I don't want to help anyone. I don't even want to help myself anymore. And I have a day where I just wallow in self-pity or just be in a mood all day. My wife accepts it. It's very rare now. But it's important to acknowledge that, because it's human. You're allowed that. Yeah, what I say is, as long as I go to bed and I draw a line in the sand at the end of the day and say, listen, it's been a bad day today. Exactly what you've just said. You don't know what's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a good day. And that's fine. It's when those days roll into weeks, into months, that's when we're starting to looking at mental health problems, depression, stuff like that. And it is important, and we need to get it out there that it is okay not to be okay.
Of course it is. It's not easy to turn it around and just go, oh yeah, I'm okay now. Talk to someone about it, get some help.
Exactly. And what often I get talks, I when I'm doing my talks and when I'm very open and honest about my mental health problems that I've dealt with, my journey, and people go, oh, you're such an inspiration, thanks. And I always say, I don't do it for the thanks. I get why you're saying it. But what I do is I open myself up so rawly to the world, to strangers who I don't know. And I'll say this on stage to you, with the hope that just one person will be inspired or be more confident to speak to someone who they know. And it's kind of that's kind of one of the greatest things I can hope to inspire, because there's such a taboo with men, especially men, that it's a taboo, a stigma to ask for help. It's a sign of weakness, when it's not. For me, it's a sign of strength. And we need to talk more and be more open about our mental health.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's unbelievably important. So thank you so much for coming on.
No,
This has been amazing. I think people have found it really positive. I can't see how many people are watching, but thanks to anyone who made it to the end.
Yeah,
well done you. But thank you so much, Dave, for coming on. It's been
no worries at all. Thanks for having me as well. And you're always championing me, Rebecca, on LinkedIn. So it's
I'll
good
do my best. I'm a big fan. And can I just ask you before you go what your favourite flavour ice cream is?
Rum and raisin.
Oh, bloody rum and raisin.
Yeah. Right,
Raisins are horrible. But have an amazing rest of the day and an amazing week, and take care.
Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you everyone for watching.
Stay positive and enjoy the week.
Take care. Bye.
See you later. Bye.